One thing your team has shown me that I thought was very impressive from a Swimlane perspective is around task orchestration. Like I've seen you guys show how a task that a process I always struggled with, this idea of how you orchestrate between tier one, tier three, day to day work activities and workflow. The whole orchestration of that in the early days, we would do that on a whiteboard. Just everybody look up at the white. I mean, it was really, really manual, very error prone. It was not that difficult to stray from the process because it was just sort of done manually. But I've seen that you guys have helped to pioneer making that a lot more structured, more automated, and hence a much more dependable and trusted task in the SOC. Is that something with your team? Do you see day-to-day orchestration of the work activity as an important function that could be automated?
Yeah, I think we talked about it. Like, there's not a there's not a silver bullet, right? Like, where do
Right,
you start in your
right.
journey? But I often go back to the basics. It's know your people, right? What's normal, know the devices and networks and data that they should have access to. Anything that's outside of that, review it. So if we start with those just very, very basic things, even before AI, is looking at doing those whiteboard sessions. We still do them in our office. We go to the whiteboard and we're like, okay, it used to take us 6 hours to do this on average. In the last 2 years, we're now down to 1 hour. How do we get it down to 30 minutes of work, right? Or how do we fully automate it? And then whiteboard and sketch that out, and then rinse, repeat, test it, build it, validate it. And then often we may run that test cycle over maybe 6 months in order for us to, depending on the complexity, right? Some of these are, they may take 30 minutes and you can save an hour almost immediately. So that's a quick return on investment. But every once in a while, you have these really complex use cases, and they may take multiple iterations. And I have OCD, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. So I sometimes have to say, like, hey, uh, it doesn't have to be perfect right now, because if you have 100 people in your SOC and you're saving 10 minutes a day per person, that's massive. And that probably means that those 100 people go home at the end of the day and they're far happier because they didn't have to do uh, that additional work. And when it comes to onboarding, so I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, right? Like, but onboarding people, new people, if these processes are automated and they're easy to visualize, now you have the ability to, in between investigations, extend their subject matter expertise and training, rather than saying, okay, as we hire you on day zero, here's your device. We're going to give you very little access initially, and then you're going to spend 6 months training and learning all of our systems. By the time they're done with that onboarding, often they might have ripped and replaced a EDR or a SIM or like some sort of tool in that stack, and they might have just wasted all the time rather than just saying, hey, this is how you manage our cases. And to your point earlier, if you're tier one, let's escalate it to tier two and tier three, or let's get rid and elevate all the tier ones to tier two and tier three because they don't have to do that manual labor.